بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على سيدنا محمد صلاة تخرجنا بها من ظلمات الوهم وتكرمنا بها بنور الفهم وتوضح لنا بها ما أشكل حتى يفهم أنك تعلم ولا نعلم وأنت علام الغيوب ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله السميع العليم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله السميع العليم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله السميع العليم وبعد. So, inshallah, in today's session, Introduction to Maliki Fiqh Part 2, Shaykh Amin asked me, may Allah reward him and may Allah give him everything that is good and bless the entire community, to follow up what we did last time on that full day intensive on the methodology of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, to follow it up with what are the books that the student of Maliki Fiqh should study to get up to Hashat al-Dasuqi on Mukhtasar Khalil, because we said that the madhab is basically on Mukhtasar Khalil. We went through last time the stages of the madhab and how the madhab developed, and how is it that we got to this idea of the book which is relied upon, which is Mukhtasar Khalil. What is its role in the madhab and why is it important? So those who did not see that, inshallah, they can review that in the previous in that previous session. And today we will focus on, okay, now how does the student get to Mukhtasar Khalil? Before we do that, I want to go through, we went through last time, what is fiqh? What is fiqh considered? What is its definition? These kind of things. I want to go through what are the branches of studying fiqh, because fiqh divides into 14 branches of study. So before we talk about what books we're going to study, we need to be aware of what's out there. We need to be aware of what is out there. So fiqh divides into theoretical fiqh and applied fiqh. What's the difference between the two? Theoretical fiqh is that fiqh, all right, the study of fiqh, of the rulings of the Sharia which are acted upon, which are taken from ijtihad. It is to study that without looking at people's situations, without looking at the waqi', without looking at reality on the ground. So we're just looking at it purely theoretical. We're going to look at the Quran and the Sunnah and the other points of usul, qiyas, ijma', maslaha, and so on. And we're going to derive the rulings based off of that. And we're not going to look at each and every single person's situation or states. In other words, we're looking at the default rulings. That's the theoretical fiqh. With the applied fiqh, no, we're going to look at the people's reality, the one who's asking the question, the society who the fatwa is going to be for. How are we going to apply this theoretical fiqh onto reality? So that's called applied fiqh. And there's a difference between the two, and it's important to distinguish between them. So an example of this is a very simple example. If I tell you, if there is somebody asks, can I make wudu with water from the ocean? What's the answer? Halal. It's allowed. You can make wudu with water from the ocean. Okay? That's the default ruling. However, someone now says that if I use this water, I will get very sick. I will get very sick. No, then we would say that it is haram for you to use that water. Okay? But in doing the theoretical fiqh, we don't look at, is the person sick and what will happen to them and these kind of things. Okay? Whereas in the applied fiqh, we do look at these kind of stuff, these kind of things. Right? So we would say they would go to tayammum. For example, the marriage. What is the default ruling on marriage? Is that it is mandub. It is recommended. However, marriage can also take the other four rulings of the Sharia. It could be obligatory on someone. If they cannot withhold themselves from the haram, then it's obligatory for them to get married. Or someone, for example, they would end up oppressing their wife, or they are not ready, they don't have the means to support these kind of things, then it would be haram for them to marry until they have the means to support. Okay, so that's the applied fiqh. We're going to look at this person's situation and circumstances. Whereas in the theoretical fiqh, no, we're looking at the default rulings. The default rulings. So theoretical fiqh divides into 7 sub-studies, and likewise applied fiqh divides into 7 sub-studies. So with theoretical fiqh, we have 7 studies. The first one is what we call fiqh al-masail, the fiqh of the issues. Okay, and this is to acquaint yourselves with the rulings of the madhab. And this is what you study in books like the Ashmawiyya, Murshid al-Mu'in, Mukhtasar Khalil, Aqrab al-Masalik, Akhdari. These books which they just give you the rulings this is halal, this is haram, this is wajib, this is mandub, this is mubah, all of these different things. The prayer has 16 obligations, wudu has 7 obligations, okay? Wudu has 7 sunan, it has X amount of fada'il, okay? That is the fiqh al-masail. You study the issues and you don't study evidences, you don't study anything else. You just study what is the end result. What is the end result, and that's it. Okay. Now some people, they have attacked the books of the Maliki madhab and they say, oh, these books, your Ashmawiya over here, right? I have the Ashmawiya in Arabic. The Ashmawiya, there's not one single dalil in this book. Okay. And I look at your Mukhtasar Khalil, there's not a single dalil in this book. I look at your Hashid Dasuki, there's not a single dalil in this book. Yeah, because you didn't understand how the madhab works. The Maliki madhab doesn't. So, for example, the Shafi'i works, my understanding is they will mention evidences, and the Hanafi works as well. The Maliki works, they don't mention evidences in their books of study. No, that is done in the second study of theoretical fiqh, and that is called al-fiqh al-mudallala, evidenced fiqh. Okay, and how is that? You go, the Malikis, what they did is they took the ayahs of the Quran that deal with rulings and they commented on them in their own tafsir. So you have the fiqh, which is evidence from the Quran. In other words, tafsir of the ayahs of rulings. So for example, you have Imam al-Qurtubi's Jami' al-Ahkam al-Quran, and you have, which is actually Aisha Bewley has translated the first 6 volumes of that. 6 volumes she's translated. So if somebody wants to look at that, they can, if somebody doesn't know English and they want to look at that, then they can check that out, inshallah, and you could see how that is. How is the evidencing of fiqh in the Maliki madhab? Okay, and you have the tafsir, okay, ayat ahkam al-Quran by Qadi ibn al-Arabi, Qadi ibn al-Arabi, and you have other works that the Malikis wrote as well, and you have fiqh, which is evidence from the Sunnah, meaning the Hadith, and the Malikis, they wrote a lot of commentaries on the books of Hadith. So, for example, you have Qadi Iyad, Sharh al-Muslim. You have Ibn Battal's commentary on Bukhari. Okay, you have Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi, his commentary on the Muwatta, al-Masalik fi Sharh al-Muwatta. You have Az-Zarhuni Sharh al-Bukhari. Okay, you have all of these different commentaries where they comment on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they show the evidences which the Malikis bring. One of the best books for this is Imam Az-Zarhuni's commentary on Bukhari. It's very good. It's a very excellent work. Okay, and it's very useful and very beneficial. And then you have fiqh, which is evidenced from usul al-fiqh, meaning you have the Quran and the Sunnah. So everyone, people, they say, I want the evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, but if you study usul al-fiqh, you have a bunch of other evidences to use as well. You have qiyas and you have other evidences as well. So what are you doing with that? So you have Imam al-Qarafi's Dakhira. The Khira, that's where he does this. So the Malikis, they have this. And you have a nice modern work, which is called Al-Fiqh al-Maliki wa Adillatuhu. Let me see if I have it here. Al-Fiqh al-Maliki wa Adillatuhu. Maliki fiqh and its evidences. This is one of the best contemporary works on this subject, or perhaps the best on the subject. Okay, and then we have that the first type of theoretical fiqh is the fiqh of issues, and then the second is the fiqh of evidences. The third branch of theoretical fiqh is the fiqh which is called fiqh al-khilaf al-nazil, meaning the fiqh of lower disagreements in the madhab, meaning the Maliki scholars inside the madhab, they had different opinions. And for those who followed the last session, part 1 that I did, they will see that. They will see that. They will see why that is the case. But the Malikis, when they had different opinions, right? Understanding this and why they had different opinions, even though the Imam is one, and that the usul is the same usul, and that they have the different riwayat of Imam Malik. Why did they differ? And the evidence back and forth. This is what's called fiqh al-khilaf al-nazil, right? The fiqh of lower disagreements, meaning disagreements within the madhab. And books which speak about this is like Al-Mukhtasar al-Fiqhi by Ibn Arafah, and Al-Tasheel, Al-Manahij مناهج التحصيل مناهج التحصيل شرح عن المدونة by الإمام الرجراجي. And for example, Bayan al-Tahsil by Ibn Rushd as well does this. Then you have number 4, Fiqh al-Khilaf al-Ali, the fiqh of higher disagreements, meaning differences between the Malikis and other madhabs, and the evidences and back and forth. So you have many different books that speak about this, such as Uyun al-Masail by Qadi Abdul Wahhab, and Al-Ishraf, okay, by Qadi Abdul Wahhab as well. And you have Tahdhib al-Masalik fi Nusrat Madhab al-Imam Malik, all right. And you have Bidayat al-Mujtahid by Ibn Rushd the grandson, and you have Ibn Qassar as well. He wrote another book called Uyun al-Adillah. Uyun al-Adillah. Okay, he was one of the Iraqi Malikis from Iraq, and he wrote a book where he writes an introduction to Usul al-Fiqh, and then he wrote about the he applies the Usul al-Fiqh and shows why the Malikis say this and what they respond to the other madhab. So no one can say that the Malikis, that they don't have evidences. One of the strange things that we see today is that somebody will be a scholar and he will say that the Maliki Fiqh does not have evidence. This is a statement that it should not come from a scholar, really. If you read the works and you read the history and you read the way that the Malikis wrote their books, this should not come from a scholar. This should not come from a scholar. Okay. Then you have number 5. You study the fiqh, which is called al-Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya, legal maxims. Meaning, okay, we have the issues, right? But what principles of the madhab are these issues based upon? These are the maxims. For example, ما قارب الشيء يعطى حكمه. That which, when you have like a new issue, right? And it's very similar to something which the Malikis already spoke about, then it will take the same ruling, right? So this will teach you how to deal with the new issues, right? Legal maxims. So it will teach you, what is the theory, because you will have evidences for these principles, right? For these maxims. And then you apply these maxims on the branch issues. So by knowing one legal maxim, and you know the evidence for that one legal maxim, you'll know the evidences for many different issues. And that's why it's useful to study science like this. And it's also useful for dealing with new issues, understanding how to deal with new issues. So you have, for example, Idah al-Masalik by Imam al-Wan Sharisi, Al-Manhaj al-Muntakhab by Imam Zaqqaq, and you have Takmil al-Manhaj, which al-Bayyara, basically what he did is he took Zaqqaq's work and he completed it. He added more that he felt that it wasn't, that it didn't have. And then he did a commentary on it. Then number 6, you have what's called al-Furuq al-Fiqhiyya, meaning the subtle nuances of fiqh, the things which are close to each other, but they have different rulings. And why do they have different rulings? Why do they have different rulings? Like, for example, what is the difference between witnessing and what is the difference between a witness and a narration? Witnessing and narration. What is the difference between the two? And how does that affect rulings, for example? Okay. So some rulings, they're based off of witnessing, and some rulings, they're based off of narrations, for example. And he goes into why is that the case. Okay. And then you have al-kulliyat al-fiqhiyya, meaning everything in the madhab in which that they say everything, it's like everything which has these properties takes this ruling. Okay. So for example, in Asal al-Masalik, he says, kullu hayyin tahirun wa yalhaqu. Right? Everything which is alive is considered pure. Everything. So every statement in fiqh which starts with everything, that the Malikis, they took this and they made it its own separate set of books so that you can remember many different issues that have the same ruling. Instead of giving you, for example, that humans are pure, dolphins are pure, dogs are pure, cats are pure, and I list all of the, no, I just say everything which is alive is pure. Khalas. Okay. So you have, for example, Al-Kulliyat by Ibn Ghazi and Al-Kulliyat by Imam Al-Makhari. Okay. So that is theoretical fiqh, and that's how it works. That's the inside of theoretical fiqh. Then you have something which is called applied fiqh, okay, which we already mentioned before. And the first one is as-siyasa al-shar'iyya, meaning what is the Sharia's outlook on politics? How do you organize the state? Okay, we have the Malikis, they actually wrote a lot in this, such as Siraj al-Muluk by Imam al-Tartushi is one of the famous works, and you have many others as well. And then you have Ilm al-Qada, which is the science of court proceedings. How do you divide up courts? How do you establish that a crime happened? and what are the evidences that you are allowed to use to establish crimes. If they happen or they didn't happen, or if people get into a dispute, how do you deal with that as a judge? Okay. And then you have, for example, the Asmiya is a book which speaks about this. Right? Kitab, it's called Al-Asmiya. This is a book that is studied after Mukhtasar Khalil. Some study it before. Then you have Al-Ahkam al-Qada'iyya, meaning preceding court rulings. So what they did is judges, they would have someone who would write down, what happened, who are the the people who came, what was the plaintiff and defendant, what was their issues, and how did the thing go, how did the back and forth go, and how did the qadi, how did that judge rule. So that is collected in different works, and people can go and they can review those. And it's not more so to take and copy paste exactly as it was done. It's more so to build the skill by reading. Okay. And for example, you have Muntakhab al-Ahkam by Imam Abi Zamanain. Then you have number 4, a science which is called Ilm al-Watha'iq wa Shurut, meaning the study of legal documents and how should legal documents be written. So you have al-Watha'iq by al-Fashtali, al-Watha'iq by Ibn Fattuh, and you have a book which alhamdulillah was recently printed called Al-Fa'iq by Ibn Rashid. Now this book Al-Fa'iq, it's printed in 6 volumes. It's printed in 6 volumes, and I was reading the introduction, and he said, I wrote this book to help people who have a bad memory like myself review. So he wrote a 6-volume work to help him review what what he might be what he has studied. So this 6-volume book was the review for him. Okay. And it's of course it's not just it's about all of the different rulings that have to do with marriage, divorce, and buying and selling and trading. However, there has a big focus on how are these actual contracts written, okay, and what happens if they're written the wrong way, and these kind of things. Then you have al-ilm al-mukhtas bis-sana'at, which is the fiqh which is concerned with trades. So for example, right, we study theoretical fiqh, right, but people in their different trades, they will have issues which come up specifically to them. So for example, I know one of my friends, he's a trucker, and he always has these questions which are specific to trucking. How do this and this and this happens, and how should I deal with the fiqh on this, right? So he said one time, we need a fiqh which is just for truckers, right? And there is a truth to that, which is that you have a sub-science of applied fiqh, which is you write a book which is specific for a trade. Now, of course, trades, they change. They change every 10 years even, right? And so the rulings need to be updated for these specific trades. For example, if you're a doctor, right? What can you do? What can you not do as a doctor? People need books written for this. For example, if you're in construction and you're building, right? What are you allowed to do in buildings? There's whole books on this. For example, you have Al-A'lan fi Ahkam al-Bunyan, which one of the Maliki scholars wrote on how should buildings be built. How should buildings be built, and the adab, and what is obligatory and what is not allowed, these kind of things. And for example, you have Ibn Sahnun has a book, Kitab al-Ta'lim, rulings which are related just to teaching, for teachers. And likewise, every single trade should have its own applied fiqh. Okay. And the reason why I am mentioning, these kind of things is to, first off, open everyone's eyes to what is out there. And what is it that we can do? And number 2, this one is very important, that there's a fiqh which is dealing with every single trade. In other words, every single person watching this, they know something that nobody else knows, or that not many other people know, that only they know. They know a few things in the community that only they know. Okay. They should study fiqh, the theoretical fiqh, and they should start thinking about, okay, well, how is this applied in my job, in my career, in the trade that I am in? And to start compiling questions related to their field, right? So you study the theoretical fiqh A to Z, and as you're studying it, you start to take notes. Okay, well, these are the different issues that come up at my work. How should I deal with them in fiqh? And you ask these questions. And imagine you ask these questions and then you compile them together. You'll have like a small booklet, right? A book which is applied fiqh for this specific trade. And then you give it, you will give it to, for example, a Maliki sheikh or scholar or something who speaks English, and you can ask them to review this. Are these answers correct? Can you fix this? And then we can publish this as a book for people who are in this trade. I think this would be something which is good. This is not something that only the imams and mashayikh and the students of knowledge can do, because everybody watching this stream, they have knowledge of a trade or something which the imams and the mashayikh and the students of knowledge, they cannot have. They cannot have this kind of knowledge, because you need to go and get a degree, or you need to get a certification, and you need experience, and you need to actually have practical experience in that field to even know which questions need to be asked. So inshallah, that makes sense to everyone. And then number 6 is al-fatwa, meaning the collections of past fatwas by scholars. And one of the famous ones is al-Ma'yar al-Mu'arab by Imam al-Wansharisi. Now, this book, Fatawa, is one of the books which the Malikis, they say, are envied on. It's one of the most important books in previous Fatawa. And if you search on Google, you'll find that many different sections are translated into English. Many sections are translated into English. And so people can benefit from reading that even if they don't speak Arabic. You have Fatawa Ibn Rushd, Nawazil al-Burzali, and others. Then you have what's called Ilm Usul al-Fatwa, the science of the foundations of Fatwa, which speaks about who should be allowed to give fatwa, with which books and with which opinions. And examples of this is like Al-Butlahiyya, Misbah al-Faqih. For example, Imam al-Makri has a nice book on the subject, and the commentaries on the introduction of Mukhtasar Khalil. So with that, we go from that and we go to, okay, now I want to study Maliki Fiqh. Okay, where do I start? I need to start with the theoretical fiqh before anything else. Before anything else, I need to know the rulings, because when it comes to learning evidences, for example, when you study evidences, when you go to tafsir, when you go to commentaries on hadith, they're writing as if you already know the rulings. They're not going to explain to you, right, that wudu has 7 obligations, and that the first obligation is the niyyah, and its places in the heart, and it's okay to have a little bit of a, that the niyyah was done a little bit before, but not too long before. All of these different details, they're going to assume that you know it. Okay, and usul al-fiqh as well, usul al-fiqh, they're going to assume that you already know it. Okay, now you're ready to be given the evidences. We're going to go and we're going to write as if you already know these preconditions, these prerequisites. Okay, so it'll be very hard for someone to just study from evidences directly. No, you need to go through the process. You study the rulings first, you study usul al-fiqh, you study Arabic. Now you're ready for this different level. Okay, so as far as how to practically study the Maliki madhab, okay, how to practically study the Maliki madhab, one can study it as follows. You start with a book which is called Matan al-Ashmawiyya, the primer of Al-Imam al-Ashmawi. Right, this is the book here in Arabic, right, and one can find it on PDF online. And Shaykh Naif al-Mubarak, he did the editing, and the book has been translated as well, and you can find it online. You just type al-Ashmawiyya translation, and I myself already I did a translation myself. I just need to review it before it's published, but I translated it myself as well. However, you can find different translations online. There's 2 that you can find. So Al-Ashmawiyya. So this is the first book that one should study. And if one went online, so for example, I taught it on ArcView, on Safina Society, on arcview.org. One can follow that. Inshallah, there will be future classes where I teach this book as well, so people can stay tuned as well for that. And then you have online Ustad Abdul Shakur Brooks. He did a commentary on it, and others they commented on this text as well. Okay, so this is the Ashmawiyya, and the Ashmawiyya, for those who want to know, kind of the different commentaries and these kind of things. One of the main commentaries on this book is called Al-Jawahir Al-Zakiyya fi Halli Al-Fadh Al-Ashmawiyya, which is by Imam Ibn Turki. Okay, and this is a nice commentary. Basically, he explains the wording of the book, and he explains the rulings in a little bit more detail. And then there's a commentary on this commentary, which we call a super commentary, by Imam al-Safti. So Hashat al-Safti on the book as well, printed by Dar ibn Hazm, and there's other prints as well. The Dar al-Fikr print is probably better, from my understanding, for those who are into prints and these kind of things. Okay, and you have another interesting commentary by Imam al-Shabrakhiti, which is Al-Mawarid al-Shahiyya. Okay, very interesting book. He brings a lot of different subtle issues in the madhab, and he explains them, and it's very nice and it's very expensive. So Even if you don't know Arabic, you should know which commentaries are out there, and you should understand where teachers are taking the knowledge that they're giving you from. Okay, so that's kind of why we're going through this. So that's the Ashmawiyya. The next book that one would study is called the Mukhtasar of Imam al-Akhdari. So Imam al-Akhdari, he wrote a summary on Maliki Fiqh. And it's a very nice summary. And it has things which the Ashmawiyya does not have. And the Ashmawiyya has things which Akhdari does not have. The Ashmawiyya, the first book that I mentioned, is nice because it's very well organized. And it's very logically put together. And it's very easy for a student to follow. And Imam al-Akhdari, he explains some things very well. He has some issues which Imam al-Ashmawi does not have, such as the rulings of hayd and nifas, the rulings of menstruation and post-birth bleeding, as well as very, very well. This is probably the best book that you want for the rulings on sujood as-sahw, the prostration of forgetfulness. Okay, so you need, even though these two books are on the same level, you should still read both. You should still study both, because one has things which the other one does not have, and vice versa. And I know that this one, Shaykh Harun Saleh, he did a commentary on it on YouTube. You can find it, and he also has a book, a commentary that was written in a book that you can find on Amazon. Okay, so you just write Mukhtasar or al-Akhdari, you just write Akhdari, Shaykh Harun Saleh, and it will come up, and you can buy that book, and you can read that, and you can follow on YouTube as well. Some of the Arabic commentaries on this book, one of the easy ones, is by Imam al-Abi, right? Hidayat Muta'abbid al-Salik. Okay, this text. Okay, it's just very simple. It goes through just explaining what do the phrases mean, and it goes on at the fundamental level. And then you have another book, okay, which was written by al-Imam al-Hajj Sa'ad ibn Umar al-Futi, who is from Mali. He's one of the scholars from Mali. And he wrote a book called Hal al-Masail. Okay, في شرح مختصر الأخضري بالدلائل. Okay, Hal al-Masail. And what he did basically, and this book is very important to read, and I think it's very important that one reads the introduction. In the introduction, he mentions that there was a group, okay, a modern group, who came in and they started saying that all of these books of the Malikis, they are shirk and they are kufr, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but that they are misguided, more or less, and that they were burning the books of the Malikis because they don't have evidences. So what did he do? He took the kitab of Imam al-Akhdari and he put evidences for it. So it's al-Akhdari with evidences. Okay, so it's a nice book, and it's available on PDF. And you have another book which is called Umdat al-Bayan. Umdat al-Bayan. Okay, and this is a very nice book because what it does is it quotes, where are these on a lot of issues, not all of them, but in a lot of issues, it quotes where are these masail coming from, meaning who in the madhab said these issues. Okay, so you need to know that the types of commentaries in the Maliki madhab are as follows. You have a type of commentary which deals with just explaining to you. They just explain to you what is the imam trying to say. Okay, so this is called the first level of commentary, which is halul al-alfaz, right, or fakul al-alfaz, meaning that they're just undoing the phrases and making it easier for you to access. All right, he's just explaining what is this imam saying. Then the second level is to do taswir of the masail, meaning to explain and conceptualize the issues which are being spoken about in a more detailed and complete manner. And then the next level is to do what's called irja' al-masail ila usuliha, meaning to take the issues which are mentioned in the book and to do one of two things, either to show the evidences for it or to show who in the madhab said what and why. Okay, who in the madhab said what. So this is something which is very important. These are the three different levels of commentary in the madhab. Okay, so you have Umdat al-Bayan on Akhdari. After that, one would study a book like Ibn Ashir. Okay, Al-Murshid al-Mu'in, right? Al-Murshid al-Mu'in, okay, by Imam Ibn Ashir. And this is a 317, I believe, or 314 line poem. 317 line poem, in which the Imam, he gives you a small introduction to Aqidah, which is based on the Sanusi works. And then he gives you the fiqh from Tahara, purification, Salah, prayer, and he gives you zakat, the rulings of zakat, the rulings of fasting, and the rulings of Hajj and Umrah, and some a basic introduction to tasawwuf. All right. So this book has been translated. Right. You could go on Diwan Press, and they've translated it there on Diwan Press. They've translated the poem, and you have Sheikh Ali Laraki. He did a nice commentary on it, the practical guidebook. And last I checked, the third edition, the third revised edition, he has it on Amazon. I think it takes some time to come in for the US since he's from the UK. However, this is very beneficial. I recommend that any Maliki gets this work. Okay, so you have the Ashmawiyah has been translated, and Akhdari has been translated, and there's a commentary on it, and it's been taught online. And likewise, this book, Murshid al-Mu'in, has been translated, and there is some commentaries as well. You have this one, and you have another. You have this practical guidebook, and then you have another one called, I believe it's called The Helping Guide. It's like a big green cover book. This one is good as well. One can get that and read that as well. Along with, of course, you should study it, but you can have something which you read alongside as well. And then you have another one, Islam in the School of Medina, which is Imam al-Qarawi's commentary on Ibn Ashir, and it's translated as well. This one's a little advanced because he quotes from higher level books, such as the commentaries of Mukhtasar Khalil and otherwise. However, for someone who is an English speaker, it pays to have a book like this, and you can review it, and you could kind of like get a glimpse into what are these higher level books speaking about, because he quotes from them. Okay, so these are the different English works on Al-Murshid al-Mu'in, which is the third level, and it's a poem, and this one should be memorized. This is one of the books in the madhab which should be memorized. And you have, basically the two most important commentaries in Arabic is the commentary of Mayara, who is the student of Ibn Ashir, and this commentary of Mayara was very, extensive. Okay, he went very deep, such that if somebody studied this commentary on Ibn Ashir, they would have a better understanding of the ibadat. They would have the same understanding that someone who studied Khalil would have, okay, of the issues relating to rituals. Now, of course, Mayara, after writing this book, he realized, he took this poem outside of its intended purpose, which is to be for the beginner. This is not a commentary for beginners. So he wrote another commentary, right, which is his As-Saghir, the small commentary on Ibn Ashir. And then the student of the student, Ibn Hamdun, he came and he wrote a super commentary on the book. And you have Hashiyat Ibn Hamdun. This is the relied upon work for the commentary on Ibn Ashir, Hashiyat Ibn Hamdun, because he took anything that Mayara made a mistake in and he fixed that. So Hashiyat Ibn Hamdun is the go-to work for Ibn Ashir. Basically, all of the commentators who came after Ibn Hamdun, they relied on him and Mayara. Okay. After that, one would study a book such as the Azziya, Al-Muqaddimatu Al-Azziya. Okay. All right. And this book is a very good book. It's not quite intermediate level. It's like in between beginner and intermediate level, because he's going to go into more details on ritual worship, and then he goes into a little bit of details on marriage, divorce laws, like introduction to commerce law and these kind of things, like the muamalat, the interactional based law. He gives you a small introduction to that. The book has been translated as well, and you can find it on a PDF online. So the Muqaddimatul Azziya has been translated as well. You can find it, Al-Azziya. You go online in English, and you have the book. All right. Now the commentary, the go-to commentary is Imam al-Zurqani's commentary on it with the Hashya of Imam al-Adawi. With the Hashya of Imam al-Adawi. And there's different prints of it. This is not quite the best one, the one that I showed you. But this is a nice text. And there's some very beneficial things in it. Imam al-Zurqani was known for having a lot of benefits in his commentaries. However, he fell into many mistakes. And so they say that you cannot rely upon Zurqani without the super commentary. So, for example, Imam al-Adawi here, he wrote a super commentary and fixed the mistakes of Imam al-Zurqani so that now it can be relied upon. Okay. After that, one can study, right? Now you have some people, basically the scholars differ. Right? The different methodologies differ. Should I study after this the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qarawani, or should I study Ashal al-Masalik? Okay. And Asal al-Masalik is a like 1,100 line poem in the rulings of Maliki Fiqh. And the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd is, more or less the same level. However, it's written on the old way of Maliki Fiqh. And the book has a lot of barakah in it. And it has a lot of commentaries that were written as well. So the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd was translated by Aisha Bewley, and one can find that online. And it was translated with the commentary of Thamr ad-Dani as well. So one can find the translation of the work along with the commentary. So, so far, and this is more or less what's translated in the madhab from the main books that are studied. But this is a good amount of works that were translated that one can find. Now, which one of these two should I study first? The Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd or Asal al-Masalik? My sheikh and the mashayikh of my teacher, they say that you should study Asal al-Masalik first. Why? Because the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd is written, it gives you the format of how everything is done. Meaning that when he tells you how to pray, he will tell you that you make takbir, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. And the book is not organized in the sense that it doesn't give you what are the obligations, and what are the sunan, and what are the mandubat, what is mandub, what is recommended, and what is all of these kind of things. Because it's written on the old way of fiqh before Khalil, and a long time. It's a very early book. So one who studies only the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd will not understand the madhab well, because they don't have the nomenclature, they don't have the terminologies which the Malikis agree upon. And so, and also Asal al-Masalik, the 1,000 line poem, it has this, and it also organizes the issues well. So someone who studies Asal al-Masalik will have like the skeleton of fiqh from A to Z. Then you study Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd, and you have the practical, how do I do everything, right? So like Asal al-Masalik will give you that the obligations of the prayer are 16 or however many it is. And then these are the sunan, and these are the mandubat, right? And likewise in trade law, and likewise in marriage and divorce, it'll be very organized like that. Then in the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd, he'll give you the practical, how do I put this into action? So you'll know what's an obligation, what's a sunnah. However, what is the order? How do I put everything in practice? That's what Ibn Abi Zayd is good for. And then Ibn Abi Zayd, he also gives you the foundational principles of the madhab. So in the introduction, if one reads the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd Qayrawani, he says that he mentions something from the usul of the madhab. He doesn't mean usul al-fiqh. What he means is the qawa'id, the overall principles of the madhab, how the madhab works, right? That's what he means by that. However, one will not be able to benefit from these things. Like Ibn Abi Zayd in the Risala does a lot of things which are ajib and very beneficial. However, one will not be able to benefit from them if he has not studied these issues in detail before. So for that reason, Asal al-Masalik should come first. And you have the most well-known commentary is by Sayyid Uthman, who is from Sudan, one of the big scholars. He has the most important commentary on this book, Siraj al-Salik, Sharh Asal al-Masalik. So this is a very good text to study. All right, and you have another text, for example, Zad al-Salik, which was written by the Shaykh of my teacher, Shaykh Abdullah Bayb al-Alam. All right, and you have another interesting book as well, Futuhat al-Ilah al-Malik. Right, unfortunately, it's not printed, so I had to get it printed out and bind it. And what he does here, it's 4 volumes. And what he does in this book is he gives you the issues and he shows you how to apply it. So he gives you the applied fiqh. So it's very interesting, the book. All right, so and then you have the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd. And for the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd, there are 2 main commentaries that you need to know. And the first one is the Hashia, the super commentary of Imam al-Adawi on Kifayat al-Talib al-Rabbani. All right, this is one of the go-to books, which has the relied upon position in the madhab, as well as An-Nafrawi's commentary, Al-Fawakih al-Dawani, right, as well. Very important book. These 2 are basically the relied upon commentaries on the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd. The others are important as well, but for now, this is enough. After that, what does one do? After that, it would be good if one studies Aqrab al-Masalik, the book Aqrab al-Masalik by Imam al-Dardir. And what Imam al-Dardir did is he took so before we go to that, we go back to that 1,000 line poem, Asal al-Masalik. Another one of the benefits of it is it's a poem, and he took one of the summaries of Mukhtasar Khalil. So Mukhtasar Khalil had 5 main summaries, right? Targhib al-Salik is one of them. The Imam who did the poem Asal al-Masalik, he took Targhib al-Salik right? And he made it into a poem. So a lot of what's in Asl Masalik, if you memorize this 1,000 line poem, you've basically memorized Mukhtasar Khalil made easy. You've studied Mukhtasar Khalil made easy, and you've memorized that. And so it makes it much easier for you to study Mukhtasar Khalil later, which as if you study the Risala only, when you get to Khalil, there might be some terminologies and phrases that are used that might not make sense. Whereas if you study Asl al-Masalik, you've already gone through the foundational issues in that way, and it will make it easier for you. After the Risala, one can study Aqrab al-Masalik by Imam al-Darrir. And what Imam al-Darrir did in this book, and this one is the best print, and you can find it on Zakaria books. Unfortunately, this one is not printed. However, there is a PhD dissertation done by Shaykh Walid Mus'ad, in which he talks about this great Imam al-Darrir, and it's very beneficial. I recommend, I think it's open source. Anyone can find it on Google. You just type Shaykh Walid Mus'ad, Imam al-Darrir, or his PhD dissertation, and you can read that. Very beneficial. It's about, the author, Imam al-Darrir, and he also speaks about what Imam al-Darrir did in the work. So it's a very good work in English that one can benefit from. Aqrab al-Masalik. Okay. Imam al-Darrir, what he did a few things which are interesting. He took the Mukhtasar of Imam Khalil, so Mukhtasar Khalil, he took it, and he made it easier by taking out anything which is a difference of opinion in the madhab. And the issues in which Imam Khalil was not sure, right? So there are some issues that Imam Khalil, he was not certain, is this the relied upon position or is this one? Okay. So this is where he says aqwa, qawlain or aqwal, right? He says these when he is not sure which of the two or which of these opinions are stronger than the other. Imam Dardir, he takes that and he shows you which one. He basically takes the verification further and he shows you which one is the more relied upon position. And he also took, so Imam Khalil, he uses a lot of examples. He uses a lot of examples in the book, which are related to his time, which we might not understand today, right? So for example, he says that water that was changed by the wi'a of the musafir, the container or the cup of the one who is traveling, the water is still pure. But really, he means this container. We don't, for us today, plastic bottles. Anyway, that's an example that is done from his time. What Imam Darrir did, he took a lot of these issues in which Imam Khalil, he talked about them using examples. Imam Darrir, he showed what is the principle behind it. What is the principle behind this example? So it makes it a lot easier for one to identify that and to be able to apply the fiqh in different times and places. So these are maybe some of the two or the three main things that Imam Darrir did, and it makes really these two or three things, right? These three things, while it might not seem like it's a lot what he did, wallahi, it is very, very beneficial. And the one who studies both books, right, they will see the value of what Imam Darrir did in Aqrab al-Masalik. So this book is a must-have, as well as the commentary of Imam Darrir himself, called Ash-Sharh al-Saghir, okay, on Aqrab al-Masalik, his smaller commentary, and it has a super commentary by Imam Asawi, and it has a Taqrir, which is a commentary on the commentary of the commentary by Imam al-Shaykh Mubarak. And another commentary on it is Imam Alish. He did a commentary on Aqrab al-Masalik. So after one studies that, they come to the Mukhtasar of Imam Khalil, which is where we left off last time. So all of this to get back to where are you, basically to work back to get to Mukhtasar Khalil, which is where we ended last time. And the Mukhtasar of Imam Khalil is a book which has much barakah in it. It has been studied for a long time, and there's over 200 commentaries that were written on it, on all different levels, okay? For one to study this book, of course, they will need to know Arabic, okay? By this point, translation will not really help you that much. One will need to know Arabic. But if you study Mukhtasar Khalil, right, this Mukhtasar Khalil, I would recommend that one has the following commentaries, at minimum. The first one is At-Tasheel li Ma'ani Mukhtasar Khalil, right? It's a contemporary work, perhaps the best contemporary commentary on Mukhtasar Khalil by Shaykh Dr. Tahir Amir. And this book, basically, he takes Mukhtasar Khalil and he makes it very accessible and very easy to read. Okay, so it's very important contemporary work, and one can benefit a lot. Along with that, of course, the relied upon text And we mentioned in the last session the importance of Hash al-Dasuqi. So you have Hash al-Dasuqi, which is the super commentary of Imam al-Dasuqi on the commentary of Imam al-Dardir on Mukhtasar Khalil. And then you have Al-Mawahib al-Jalil, which is the commentary of Imam al-Hattab on Mukhtasar Khalil. This is one of the most important commentaries on Mukhtasar Khalil. Every single Maliki scholar after Hattab relies on Hattab. It's one of the more advanced works in the madhab, and one should have it. So if you go back to that work, Islam in the School of Medina, that you can find on Amazon, it's a little pricey. Imam al-Qarawi's commentary on it that was translated, he quotes a lot from Hattab. All right, so this is like a hint that like he quotes a lot from Hattab. So if you want to like kind of see what that's like, you can get that book. And he quotes from a lot of other places. So if you want to like get a practical, or you want to get like a small view through translation of what's going on in the madhab, you can get that book and you can see that. And it's a nice reference book to have. Other than that, one can have, so these are some other texts that one should know in the madhab and their importance in the school. Right? So some other books that one should know about. You have a book which is called Masail ibn Jama'ah, right, which is a book on transactional law, trade law in Islam. And it's ajib because Ibn Jama'ah, he was asked to write a book on tasawwuf. And what did he do? He wrote a book on the fiqh of financial transactions. So the students, they said, we asked you for a book on tasawwuf. He said, yes. The problem is that all of you don't know the rulings of buying and selling, and so all of your income is haram, probably. Right? You guys are doing things which are haram in your buying and selling, and your income is haram. And so you're eating from the haram, and one of the first steps in tasawwuf is to get rid of this. So that's why I wrote this book for you in tasawwuf. So it's a very nice book, and it makes the issues of trade law very easy. It makes it very easy. Okay? And then you have another book which is very important, which is Tahrir al-Kalam fi Masail al-Iltizam by Imam Hattab. And this book, he basically shows what are the consequences or what is the result of certain things which happen in contracts and in different interactions. So if this happens, these things become an obligation, or this is what is followed up by that. So if one studies fiqh up to Khalil and one reads this book, then they will be very strong and very capable of giving fatwa according to my sheikh. And one can, to make that book easier, there's a book called Tartib Iltizam al-Hattab, okay, which was written, basically the Imam who wrote this book, he took this book, Tahrir al-Kalam fi Masail al-Iltizam, and made it easier to access. Likewise, one should study Tartib Furuq al-Qarafi. So we said that you have the science of Furuq, which talks about the subtle nuances in fiqh. This book makes that one very easy to access, Imam Qarafi's book. All right, and one should also read something from the history of the Maliki madhab. So you have a nice book, which is called Istalah al-Madhab an al-Malikiyya. It's a very good book for someone who knows Arabic to read, to get an idea of the history of the madhab. For one who does not know Arabic, you can go to Aisha Bewley's website. You could just go on Google and type her name in, and you'll see she actually translated a lot. She translated a lot on these issues. So if you just go around the website, you'll see that what I mentioned will help a lot if you go through her website. May Allah reward her. Okay. You have another important book, and it's a PhD dissertation, again, for the ones who know Arabic. نظرية الأخذ بما جرى به العمل. This is a PhD dissertation which is done on the theory of ما جرى به العمل, which is when are you allowed to take a position other than so we study Khalil, right? Mukhtasar Khalil, and we only know what is the mu'tamad, what is the mashhur of the madhab. When are you allowed to go outside of that? This is kind of talking about that, one of the aspects of that, not everything related to that, but it's one of the aspects of that, and it's a very beneficial study. Also, the study of fara'id, which is inheritance law. The Malikis have taken and they've written, you can study it from Khalil and you can study it from Aqrab al-Masalik, but the Malikis have also taken it and made it its own genre of books. So you have the famous one by Imam al-Shatti. He wrote a text on this, and one can benefit from studying that. And this one might be nice if somebody actually translated it. It could be a good study, a good intro study to inheritance law. You also have another intro book to the history of the Maliki madhab and about the madhab by Imam Ahmed Deeb, Al-Madkhal li Dirasat al-Fiqh al-Maliki. Very beneficial work as well. So one who knows Arabic should have it. And you also have Tartib al-Madarik by Imam Qadi Iyad. This is a work of tabaqat, of the different stages of the Maliki scholars in different centuries up until his time, and their biographies. It's printed. This print is in 4 volumes, and then there's another one that has it in 8 volumes. And Aisha Bewley, she also translated a lot of sections of it, and it's on her website as well. So one can actually access this in English as well, or at least parts of it. Okay, and you also have some of the other important works. Is, of course, we mentioned Al-Manhaj al-Muntakhab by Imam Zakak in Qawa'id Fiqhiyya. It's a poem on the legal maxims. And you have the commentary of Mayara on the Asamiyya, which is a book on court proceedings and how things work, basically for a judge. So this is a very important work as well. And then you have some works which are, they're older in the madhab. They're beneficial, but one should delay studying them until later so that they don't confuse themselves. So these books should be delayed. Well, this one over here, Imam Qadi Iyad's I'lam, Al-A'lam bi Hudud Qawa'id al-Islam. One can study a book like this, perhaps after they read something like Al-Muqaddimat al-Azziyah. One can venture into a book like this, or Al-Qurtubiyyah, and other books like this. And then after that, you have, and these books really, I believe that they should be, one should withhold reading them until after they study Mukhtasar Khalil. And you have the Talqeen as well as At-Tafri'. And these are 2 very, very important works in the madhab. And one will find if you read the commentaries, they make references to these books and their commentaries, so one will know how to deal with them. So that's why I say delaying some of these books is beneficial for the student. And then also I would say that one can also study a book. This one's a very important book, the Muqaddimatul Amrusi. And one can insert this book, studying this book at the Ashal al-Masalik or Risala level. Okay? And this is another one of the summaries of Mukhtasar Khalil. And I'm actually teaching this book to a group of friends at the Masjid, and I'm translating it as we go through it. So inshallah, if I finish the translation, then this will be available. And it's a very, very useful text. It's Khalil made easy, but it's not in a poem form like Ashal al-Masalik. So a translation of this book would be very beneficial, inshallah. And then you have, and this is a very important text, and I've referenced it before, Ad-Dalil al-Tarihi li Mu'allafat al-Madhab al-Maliki. It's available on PDF. One who knows Arabic should read this work. And another work, which I think this one deserves like a session by itself. And this is like at least as far as I know, this is like a hidden treasure. Not many people know about this. As far as I know, not many people know about this. And it is the introduction of Imam Ibn Daqiq al-Eid to his commentary on Jami' al-Ummahat by Imam Ibn al-Hajib. So Ibn al-Hajib's work was basically what people relied upon before Mukhtasar Khalil. So it was a very advanced book, very advanced work. And what he did in this work is he gathered all of the different opinions in the madhab. Okay, and I mentioned it in the last session. Imam Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, he did a commentary of it. It's not printed, however, the introduction of the work is printed with a research study on it. I think that this is a very, very useful text because in it in the introduction, he mentions 10 points of that a commentary should go over, meaning the highest level of commentary. So how should we deal with Islamic classical texts? And how do I know that I fully understood a classical text? He basically talks about this 10 different points. So maybe inshallah I can prepare, translate that introduction, and we can kind of like read it maybe on a live stream like this. And I think this is something which is very beneficial for a student, and it's not something that's very well known. and it's like a little bit unique. So these are the this is kind of like an introduction, and you also have, sorry, one more thing. So now after Mukhtasar Khalil, what should one study? After one finishes their study of Mukhtasar Khalil, you have the Jami' al-Ummahat by Imam Ibn al-Hajib, okay, which is basically, as I mentioned last time, I already mentioned what it's about. And then you have the Mukhtasar al-Fiqh of Ibn Arafah, which I mentioned before. And then you have the Bayan wa Tahsil of Al-Imam Ibn Rushd. And I want to share, I have this, inshallah, on the Markaz Imam Malik website. We will have this translated for everyone. But I wanted to share what are the, there's one of the big scholars of the madhab. His name is Ibn Marzuq. And Ibn Marzuq, he wrote a commentary on Mukhtasar Khalil. And it's 10 volumes. It's this one right here. It's in 10 volumes. And it's only on like Tahara, and it's on court proceedings. So it's 10 volumes, and it doesn't even cover a fourth of the book. And they say that if this book was complete, because the Imam, he passed away before he finished it. They say if the Imam finished it, it would have been the best commentary on the Mukhtasar of Khalil. So what I wanted to share was what did he used to teach? What did he used to teach his students? So I wanted to share that. Let me just get it up. And inshallah, this will be published soon. Let's see. I think I have it on my phone. Yeah, so what he used to teach in Maliki Fiqh, and one of my friends, may Allah bless him, he translated all of this, and it will be put on the Markaz Imam Malik website. So inshallah, you can stay tuned for that. I can share the link for it. So what he used to teach was the following books. He would teach At-Tafri'. So it's one of these earlier books that I mentioned. One of the earlier books that I mentioned. And he used to teach Al-Talqeen as well, and the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd, and Mukhtasar Khalil, okay, and Jami' al-Ummahat. And these are kind of like the small books that he would teach, okay. And he would also teach a book on inheritance that he wrote, and he would also teach his commentary on Mukhtasar Khalil, and he would also teach Tahdhib al-Mudawwana by Imam al-Barad'i. So he would teach one of the summaries of the Mudawwana, and he would teach the Bayan wa Tahsil of Imam Ibn Rushd. So like a very advanced curriculum, mashallah. So with a big himma, all of us can reach to trying to attain such levels that those before us came. The most important thing that one should do is that they should, of course, study Arabic. If they are serious on a study of Maliki Fiqh, that they should study Arabic really, so that they can access these books. However, for the ones who they only know English, in the meantime, they can follow. You have different resources. You have the different commentaries by different mashayikh on YouTube in English on the Ashmawiyya, on Akhdari, right? So you'd follow those two. And then Ibn Abi Zayd, Ibn Ashir al-Nushr al-Mu'in, that's been commented on by different imams on YouTube as well. And then you have the Muqaddimat al-Aziyya, all right, which as far as I know, there are some commentaries on English. There's one actually going on. And you have the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd, which parts of it have been commented on. So these are some of the works that are available in English. And inshallah, with time, as time goes on, different Malikis are putting out work, doing translations, doing different texts. But if somebody has the correct methodology, at least they know where they're going. They know what to ask for, and they know when they go to ask for different curriculums from mashayikh or to study different books, they know what to ask for and the reasons why. So inshallah, this was a beneficial session. And if people found it beneficial, we could see what to do in the future. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum.